Hi there. Fire Prevention Week is coming up from October 8th to the 14th, and we're so lucky to be joined by Randy Chevrier, Community Safety Officer with the Calgary Fire Department. He's going to talk to us today on that subject. Thank you so much for coming in, Randy.
Andrew, thanks for having me on the show today. It's absolutely my pleasure to come and share some safety messages with your clients here at the Kirby Center.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Unison.
Yeah.
I guess Unison is the rebrand.
Yeah,
Right?
Unison Kirby Center. It's
Yes.
going to be great, and we're going to learn a lot of really important stuff.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Shall I begin?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Today's presentation is called Steps to Safety. Steps to Safety is a program developed by the National Fire Protection Association to educate seniors and older adults about fall and fire prevention. You may have heard a similar presentation done by the fire department before called Remembering When. Well, that program has been upgraded and updated to Steps to Safety, much like I guess the Kirby Center has been upgraded and updated to Unison. We are now transitioning into Steps to Safety. So if we begin the presentation, we are going to be teaching you about some key fall and fire prevention tips that we can learn and share from. I'll go through the fire prevention tips first and then the fall prevention with a bit of a review between each section. So a little bit about myself. My name is Randy. I'm a community safety officer with the Calgary Fire Department. In the middle there, you see the four officers or three officers and a coordinator. We have a very small team of community safety officers that are dedicated to education outreach around Calgary. We mainly provide our service within our division to higher risk populations. So children, new Canadians, people with disabilities, and our senior population. That's where we like to focus the bulk of our educational efforts. To the left is a picture of me and my children when I graduated from the Fire Academy a few years ago. And to the right is a picture of me and my mom, who factors into some of the presentation today. And you'll see that it's not always a positive way that she factors in, but she's my mom. I love her. And much like you have loved ones that want you to take care of yourself and also advocate for your own safety in your own homes. So the Calgary Fire Department responds to all types of calls. We responded to 80,000 calls last year. 43 fire stations around Calgary, around 1,500 frontline service providers, so firefighters, and we got called over 80,000 times last year in 2022. About 29,000 of those calls were fire related. Half of our calls, about 55%, are medical interventions, so critical medical interventions, and then other calls make up rescues, citizen assists, water and ice safety, and those sorts of things. But actual fire calls make up 20% of our call volume, and of those calls, we would say about 4 to 5% are actual real live fires. So we are 24/7 fully staffed. Like I said, 43 fire halls around the city, and we work 365 days a year, even on holidays. Again, fully staffed fire department. So when we talk about education, we want to talk about prevention, detection, and preparation. We actually say when we go to schools, prevention, detection, and evacuation. But the National Fire Protection's Steps to Safety really wants to focus on getting you prepared in the event of an emergency. And then we'll talk about fall prevention. So we want to talk a little bit about fire and why it's important. Today's homes burn hotter and faster than ever before. The synthetic materials and lightweight construction and open floor fans contribute to faster burning fires because the synthetic materials are made up of petroleum products, oxygen, as you know from grade 6 science class. If you remember, oxygen feeds the fire. And so with these open floor plans, more petroleum products in our homes, it causes fire to spread a lot quicker. A fire can double in size in 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds, that fire is doubling. That's why you see many fires, especially in the newer communities. You'll see that oftentimes the house of origin is completely destroyed, and so too are many of the neighbors' homes. That's what's contributing. And also, I guess, how close in proximity to each other new homes are built. But, that type of construction is also going on in the inner city with many infills and people, the gentrification of our communities. We want to make sure people are prepared for fire. There's not much we can do to change construction practices, but we can educate people on how to be prepared. Smoke kills more people than fire. So we want to make sure that you're prepared in your room for how to deal with that. And you have as little as 2 minutes to escape from fire or home once you hear that smoke alarm. So having working smoke alarms is very important in your fire safety plan. I'll go through this quickly. So the top causes of fires in homes is cooking, space heaters, smoking, and electrical, and candles. So over the last 6 to 7 years, the stats have compiled, and cooking, space heaters, smoking, electrical, and candles kind of switched the top spot from year to year. But cooking would be the number one cause. Cooking, obviously, a kitchen has more appliances and tools for creating heat. And oftentimes, that's where the cause of fires in residential settings exists. So we'll start with our first fire prevention message for kitchen is making sure we stay in the kitchen when frying food. This year, depending on when you watch this, a fire prevention week that kicks off October 8th to the 14th with the theme of cooking safety starts with you. And the number one reason fires start in the kitchen is because of unattended cooking. I've been to several fires in which we were putting out a fire in someone's kitchen and someone was returning home with the groceries that they stepped out very quickly to get after they started cooking. So we want to make sure that we don't leave cooking unattended. This is especially common in our older adult population. Whether the phone rings, whether the doorbell rings, we have to ensure that we don't leave that cooking unattended. If you have to leave the kitchen, please turn off the burners. Set a timer when you're cooking to remind you that you are cooking. We want you to wear short, form-fitting sleeves when you're cooking, so as to prevent burns and scalds. I actually had an opportunity to tour the Calgary Firefighters Burn Treatment Center the other day, and the the medical director, said that the number one cause for patient admissions is due to scalds. So make sure that we're wearing form-fitting sleeves so that not knocking over anything, we're not hitting those pot handles. Again, to prevent those scald burns, make sure we're using oven mitts to handle any hot pans or pots. If a pan of food does catch fire, it's important to slide a lid over it and turn off the burner. We never want to throw water on a grease fire. That is a very dangerous situation. Water and oil don't mix. When water hits a grease fire, that water instantly turns to steam and will push the oil throughout the home, causing a violent explosion that could definitely put you in harm's way. So the simple solution, if there's a grease fire that's contained within the pot or pan, is to slide a lid or a tin cookie sheet over the pan or pot and then turn off the burner. We don't want to move it. Don't try to put it out the window. Don't try to throw it into the sink. Just leave it there, exit the home, and call the fire department. Speaking of my mom that I introduced earlier in the show, Carla Chevrier, who lives in Montreal, so I don't see her very often. I called her up the other day, or actually it was a couple of months ago, and we were talking, and she said, "Hey, I got some new curtains." And I was like, "Oh, why do you got new curtains?" She's like, "Oh, well, you're not going to like this." I said, "Well, what happened?" Well, she had put a pat of butter on a pan to start cooking. The phone rang. She left the kitchen to answer the phone. She got into a conversation, and she forgot that the stove was on. In a short time, the black smoke filled the kitchen, and it was starting to flame a little bit. And so she grabbed the pan. She made it to her sliding door, and as she slid the door open to try to throw the pan out, the curtains blew in front of the flaming butter, and my mom's curtains caught fire. Thankfully, it was more of a melt than an actual fire, but that illustrates to me that even my mom won't listen to me as a community safety, fire safety expert. But
Well, and I have to say, Randy, I had the very similar experience myself recently. So I have to put myself on blast and let everyone know that I opened up my oven not a couple of months ago to see just a fully on flame, inflamed pan. And I quickly closed the oven,
yeah,
turned it off. Those were the two good steps. And then I Googled on my phone what to do in case of an oven fire, which probably something that it's best to figure out what to do before the fire happens, not
yeah,
when the fire is currently ongoing.
absolutely. So in the case of an oven fire, if you notice it, we would just want to make sure you turn off the oven. We don't even want you to open it because again, I mentioned that earlier that oxygen feeds the fire. If you open the oven or even in a microwave, that oxygen could feed the fire and it could flash on you. So the big thing is turn it off, unplug it if it's a microwave, and then exit the building, call the fire department. That's always the default. Don't try to be a firefighter. You pay taxes. You pay lots of taxes. Like I said, there are 43 fire stations that work in 365 days a year, and we want to help you, but you have to call us. So don't try and put out the fire. Don't move any pots or pans off the stove. We've had examples where people have carefully tried to move a pan off the stove and the handle melted, and then the pan and all the contents spilled all over the floor and scalding them. So really, with that grease fire, slide the lid over it, turn off the burner only if you feel safe to do so. If it's spitting fire and bubbling and feels scary to get close, just exit the home. People at this point will always ask us about fire extinguishers. We don't teach people to use fire extinguishers. We know that they are a tool that people use, but our priority, my priority, is life safety. Fire is dangerous. It can double in size every 30 seconds. So fire extinguisher may or may not work. In some cases, fire extinguisher might push that oil and spread the fire. I'm not saying that will or won't happen, but I know the safest course of action is to leave the home, close the door, call the fire department, and you're safe. Same with, we always get the questions now about fire blankets. Fire blanket, we still don't have sort of what our official word is on it, but we do know that in some cases they work, in some they may not. But anything that puts you closer to harm's way, we don't want to see that. So if you are going to try something with a pot on a stove and there's a little fire in it, like we said, use the lid that fits over it, put an oven mitt on, slide it over, turn off the heat, let it cool down for a substantial period of time before attempting to move it. But again, you're always safest calling the fire department. So if we move on in the kitchen, we also want to make sure that you aren't cooking while you're drowsy from any alcohol or medications. That's also a big cause. You know, if you're drowsy, you feel faint, you feel lightheaded, it's probably not a good time to throw a bunch of oil on the stove and start cooking. You want to make sure that you got your wits about you and you make sure that you're ready to basically watch what you're cooking for the whole period of time that you are cooking. When we talk about electrical appliances, we want to make sure that we're only plugging one heat producing appliance into an outlet at a time. So usually around the toaster, you don't want to put a toaster and a panini press by each other. You don't want to, I don't know, have your toaster plugged in by your hair curler. So those types of items with a heating element, please only put one into an outlet at a time and plug it directly into an outlet. We don't want to see extension cords. We don't want heat producing items into a power strip. They should be directly into an outlet and then unplug them when you're not using them. It's a safe practice to unplug them when they're not in use.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because when I make my toast in the morning, I'm often planning on curling my hair. And
Well, there you go.
right, it's good information to have. That's not something I would have thought of, right?
Yeah,
And
no.
now I know for the future, maybe I don't need to spend so much on my hair in the mornings anymore.
But you know, we do have in the kitchen, we have so many appliances and devices that make our life simple. You think of a toaster, a panini press, you know, those George Foreman grills, hot plates, all these sorts of things. There's only so much power that your kitchen circuit can handle. If you have too many of these heat producing things, they can cause a short and it could cause a fire. So you know, make sure again, we're not using too many things in the outlet, and for especially for heat producing appliances. Uh, Again, when we talk about electrical safety, we want to make sure that we check for any cords. So inspect your cords. You know, when we're looking at iPhones, like you see in the picture here, many of us have used cords and have cords like this at home that still work. They still provide power, but the insulating component to that wire is stripped, and that can cause a fire. We want to make sure that we're charging our phones. So if you got a nice phone, charge it on a hard flat surface. Laptops, tablets, don't put them between the cushions. I have 3 boys at home, and I'm always picking up their electronics because, you know, they tend to think that there's no problems. But I've had many instances, and I'm sure many of our viewers will have instances where their phone is in their pocket and it feels like it's on fire because it's not off, it's on standby, right? So just making sure that we charge them on a hard flat surface, not underneath our pillows, making sure that we're inspecting the cords and cables before we plug things in. And if we have to replace them, you know, as much as possible. I understand that you know, I have quite a high interaction with our senior population. I understand that sometimes you're looking for a cheaper solution to something, but when it comes to electricity, you want to get something that's safe. You want to get something that has that UL symbol or Canadian Standards Association. I don't have those symbols right up here, but maybe we can put them up in post production. But you want to get those symbols for the devices that you put up. Many of our seniors do their own laundry. We want to make sure that when it comes to the dryer, that we're getting it properly serviced at the same time as we would maybe our furnace, get the vents cleared. The lint in the lint screens is highly, highly flammable. So we want to make sure that every time we're doing a load of laundry, we're cleaning it out, but we're also making sure that we call in someone to inspect and service our unit. If that lint gets into the burners, it can be very dangerous. Again, another Carla Chevrier story. I went back last year to visit my mom for a day. I flew in on for a work conference in Toronto, and then I visited her in Montreal. And she's poor lady. She's gonna be immortalized in this show. But so I only had enough clothes for the day. So the night before I was leaving, I threw all my clothes in the wash. And in the morning, she had thrown my stuff in the dryer. And the dryer she has is a newer dryer that my brother purchased for her. Her old dryer had the lint screen in the tub, so she knew how to empty it out all the time. And so she told me, she said, you know, this new dryer doesn't dry very well, so you might have to run it for another cycle. So I went down and I looked at my clothes, and lo and behold, they were still quite damp. And I thought, well, that's odd. It's a newer dryer. So I ran it for another cycle, and this dryer has a lint screen at the top, accessible. So when I opened the lint screen, this is what I found. So that's my mom's. This is not a picture I found on the internet. That's literally the lint screen from my mom's dryer. When I picked it, looks like she has a couple of cats that were stuffed in there. And as you can tell, it hadn't been emptied for months and months and months on end. And obviously a huge fire hazard. So again, it's a warning for everyone out there to make sure that you do clean those lint screens out, because I've personally been to many homes when I was working on the trucks to put out dryer fires. They happen if we're not aware, and I'm very thankful that it didn't happen, and I'm actually thankful that I was there that day. To put a cap on that story, when I asked my mom where she thought the lint screen is, she just thought all the lint blew outside. So that's Carla going to give her son heart attacks no matter how old I am. So the next message for fire safety is if you smoke, please smoke outside in designated areas. Use designated ashtrays. Never smoke in bed, and never smoke if medical oxygen is being used. We had a fire fatality last year at a seniors residence where one of our seniors was smoking while under oxygen, and unfortunately, there was a fatality because the oxygen that's very, very highly flammable exploded, and that was an unfortunate situation. Which the stats for that is on the rise in the U.S. A lot higher concentration of the population is on oxygen state in the United States, and a high percentage of the population smokes while on oxygen. So, we want you to be aware that it's a very, very dangerous situation. It's not just hazardous, but absolutely dangerous. So again, if you're smoking, please don't do so under oxygen. Use a sturdy ashtray if you're smoking. Even when you're smoking outside, don't throw your butts or your cigarettes into the peat or into the grass. Obviously, this year we've had a huge surge in forest fires and outdoor fires. And obviously, they're not all caused by improperly disposed cigarettes, but a lot are. Where we live in a dry, windy climate, which is prime fuel for a fire, and a cigarette can be just that. So please use sturdy ashtrays, wet your butts before throwing them out, and please don't discard them in any vegetation, because again, we talk about how quick fire can spread. Cigarettes is one of the highest causes, and please don't smoke in your beds or your comfy chairs. A lot of our seniors like to have an afternoon nap. They'll sit in their chair, watch a program, and usually, that program leads to a nice nap. And again, we don't want anybody to be victim to a smoking fatality, which is a common cause when smoking. So in those comfy chairs or in your bed, we advise not to smoke. It's getting cold. It's only going to get colder for the next few months. We feel it in the morning, that morning chill. We oftentimes don't want to raise the thermostat in our home, but we will employ space heaters. Make sure we give space. And by giving space, we mean about 1 meter or 3 feet from anything that can burn. So any types of clothing, any material that's flammable, just give those space heaters space to breathe. Please don't cover them as much as it's nice to have a warm blanket. Putting a blanket on a space heater for a few minutes is very dangerous, because again, the same reasons kitchen fires start, people get distracted, the doorbell rings, you leave the room, you have to go to the bathroom, and then that thing that you were going to leave there for just 30 seconds becomes a fire hazard. So give them space, make sure that they are plugged directly into the wall. Again, it's a heating element within that appliance. We want it plugged directly into the wall. We don't want to plug it through an extension cord or a power strip. If your clothes do catch fire, the old adage of stop, drop, and roll, I think we talked a little bit about it before we got in the air, is something that we teach. So if your clothes catch fire, we want you to stop. Don't run around. Again, if you run around, you're feeding that fire with oxygen. We've talked a few times about that. Stop where you are, drop gently to the ground, cover your face with your hands, and roll over and back and forth. If you do sustain a burn, use some cool water for 3 to 5 minutes, but get medical help right away. Don't hesitate to call the authorities. And stop, drop, and roll is if your clothes catch fire. It's funny, when we talk to little kids, we talk about home safety and what happens if your home catches fire. And the first thing the kids say is stop, drop, and roll. It's like, well, don't stop, drop, and roll if you're not on fire. Get out of the house, right? So stop, drop, and roll is what we teach only if your clothes catch fire. That's why we want to keep space from the space heaters. That's why we want you to wear short sleeves and tighter clothing when you're cooking, because we don't want your clothes to catch fire. If you're in a mobility device such as a wheelchair, we teach stop, lock, and pat, or stop, lock, and smother. So if you do use that mobility advice, use a large blanket or towel to put out the fire. If you notice someone does have fire on their clothing, as is illustrated here on the right, grab a blanket or a towel and cover the person to smother the fire. And again, seek that medical attention right away just to make sure everything's okay. We talk about working carbon monoxide alarms and smoke alarms in people's homes. Now, some of our seniors live in care facilities where that's all maintained through property management or a manager on site. But many of our seniors aging in place need to make sure that they have smoke alarms on every level of the home. Any new homes in Calgary, actually, the current building code is such that we'll have smoke alarms on every level of the home. We'll have them inside the bedrooms and outside any sleeping quarters. And they'll all be interconnected such that if one rings in the basement, then someone upstairs will be notified. It all leads back to the new construction, homes burning faster and hotter and quicker, and having less than 2 minutes to get out. So the newest technology out there is making sure that if one rings, they all ring, and we have them in all the places where we need you to hear them. That's why they're in all the bedrooms, so on and so forth. But we still need you to test your smoke alarms once a month. So you do that by pressing the test button. I often advise our seniors that you can use a broomstick. Usually the test button is big enough that you can hit it with the end of a broom handle. You want to make sure that you change those removable batteries every year. So if you have smoke alarms that have either the main power source is a battery or a backup battery, because the new ones are hardwired into the home, you still want to change those batteries once every year. And then you want to replace your smoke alarms every 10 years. So even the hardwired ones that may come with a new home, once that home hits a 10-year range, like some of our 10-year-old communities in town, those smoke alarms need to be changed. The misconception is if it's wired into the home and it still draws power, it's working. But the components that detect the fire are what we're worried about, not necessarily the power source. So that's why we say, as a general rule, to replace smoke alarms every 10 years. We have a program with the city of Calgary, the fire department, that if our seniors don't have anyone, whether it's family member or neighbor that can come and help them out, you can call us and we can send someone to test your smoke alarms. If they're battery operated, we can offer a replacement. If you have hardwired alarms, you're going to need to call someone. We're not allowed to touch the hardwired alarms, but we can at least come and take a look and tell you what might be needed. So you can call 311. If you're a senior or people with disabilities can call us, and it's a service that we provide to Calgarians. We put you in the 311 system, you sit in queue, and then we do our best to service you as quickly as possible. The other thing we want to make sure is that as seniors age, that we may have hearing problems. We want to make sure that everyone can hear the smoke alarms while they're in bed. So to that effect, Deaf and Hear Alberta has some technological aids that can help, such as bed shakers or strobe lights. So we want to make sure that you know that your smoke alarm is ringing. So as you can see in this picture here, the smoke alarm rings. It sends a signal either to the bed shaker or the strobe light to alert you that there's an issue. So again, here's just a picture of what these bed shakers and strobe lights may look like. If you're a deep sleeper, if you're deaf or hard of hearing, or if you're wearing any hearing aids or cochlear implants, you want to look into that. And that would be through Deaf and Hear Alberta provides those devices. We also want to make sure that you plan and practice your home escape plan. So we want to make sure that the general rule of thumb is that everyone know 2 ways out of every room in your home. Usually it's a door and a window. And we want to make sure that everyone living in the home has a meeting spot that they go to. So make sure that your doors and windows open easily. If you have any locks on windows, want to make sure that they can be opened from the inside. We want to remove any permanent bars from windows that may keep people out, but it may also keep you from getting out in an emergency. And then when you plan and practice that home escape plan, if the alarm sounds, we want you to get out, close doors behind you. That's kind of a good a key, because it does prevent damage from going throughout the home. Get out, close doors behind you, and stay out. Please don't go out back inside for anything. So here's just a sample of a fire escape plan. This is more for a multi-unit dwelling. So know where the exits are, know where the quickest exit is if you have to get out. And if your quickest exit is blocked, know how to get out a secondary way. What if you can't get out? So what if you live in a facility where you're on the 3rd or 4th floor and you have mobility aids? We don't want people using the elevator if there's a fire. Oftentimes we'll go to a call and people try to use the elevator, and then we also have an elevator rescue. So we want to make sure that everyone uses the stairs, especially in multi-unit dwellings. But if you can't get out for whatever reason, we want you to shelter in place. And shelter in place means stay in your room and make sure you're safe. Close as many doors between you and the fire as possible. Place towels under the door to keep that smoke out and keep you having fresher air. And then stay near a window and call 911. So if you have trouble with stairs in your own home, can you sleep on the 1st floor? That's a question. You know, some people are aging in place. They're living in the same home they've lived in for many years, and they sleep in the same bedroom. Can we adjust your living situation that you have an easier way out if you are slower to get out of the home in case of an emergency? So that's some of the things to think about. You want to plan your escape around your abilities. So have a telephone in your bedroom in case you are trapped by smoke or fire, or you're sheltering in place. Keep all your needed items near you, such as a flashlight, glasses, walker, scooter, cane, any medications, any hearing aids. Keep those in your room, keep them nearby so that you can access them in case of an emergency. Want to take a moment to have people think right now, what are some of the items that you personally would want to have near you in the event of a fire? We all have a different situation. This would be a great time to start listing some of those things, or make a note that you want to plan for that after this presentation. What should you have by your bedside in case of a fire and in case you can't self-escape? And then obviously we want everyone to know their local emergency number. We have many numbers in Calgary to help us. 811 is HealthLink. 311 is any city services, as I mentioned before. 211 to get any social service help, but 911 is that number you need to call in an emergency. They're always going to ask you a few questions. The first one they'll ask you is, what is your emergency? The next one they will ask you is what city you live in. And although that would seem strange for a large metropolis like Calgary, the 911 call center in Southern Alberta takes calls for Cochrane, Airdrie, Chestermere, Okotoks, Calgary, and surrounding areas. So you want to make sure that they know where to localize that response. And then they'll ask you your address and another slew of questions as they're compiling information and sending first responders to you. So know that number, have it punched into your phone just in case you do have an emergency. So a little review on fire safety. The first thing, cooking safety starts with you. Please watch what you heat. Turn off any cooking if you have to leave the room. Only plug in one heating appliance into a wall outlet at a time. So Andrew, you either curl your hair or you make your toast. You don't do both.
It's truly one of the most difficult decisions I'll have to make, but I think I'm obviously going to go with curling my hair.
Perfect. Perfect. To continue on, smoke in designated areas. Try to smoke outside if you're living in your home. Dispose of smoking materials properly. A nice sturdy ashtray, wet the butts. Please do not dispose of your smoking materials in the vegetation. 4, give space heaters space. As it gets colder, you're going to want to heat up the area around you. Don't put it too close to your feet. Don't put it too close to your blanket. You don't want to have an accident, right? What do you do if you're close catch fire? We talked about stop, drop, and roll. Cover your eyes as you're doing so. If you're in a mobility device, stop, lock, and pat the fire down. Next, working smoke alarms save lives. It's very important to test those smoke alarms every month, change the batteries once a year, and replace those old smoke alarms every 10 years. If you look up to your ceiling and your smoke alarms are glowing, ugly yellow, they are too old, because at one point they were white. Okay, that's a general rule of thumb. But if you don't know how old your smoke alarms, you can ask someone to come up. When you untwist them and you look, there's usually a date of manufacture at the back. It's written very tiny, so get someone with good eyes. But it's written, there's a date of manufacture, and 10 years from that date is when they expire. So that's the general rule of thumb. Plan your escape around your abilities. So plan for an emergency. Plan that your smoke alarms will go off and you'll have to get out, and make sure you do it around your abilities. And then always call 911. Whether it's a small fire, whether it's a grease fire in your oven, if it's something you're worried about, call 911 if you have an emergency. Very, very important. Andrew, are there any questions after fire safety, and then we can transition into fall prevention?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is all really great information. I know, Fire Prevention Week happens once a year, and talking about one of these things that you should be checking your fire alarms once per year is for batteries, changing the batteries. So just for anyone watching right now, go check the batteries. If you have this moment, well, you can pause this and come right on back
and test them.
Test them as well.
First.
Test them first. And if you have the chance to check that date. The one question that I was going to ask is a lot of the folks watching this, and I know in our household, we have pets. And I know specifically, at least in our household, our evacuation plan does involve our animals. But when you're looking at evacuating, is there any particular attention that should be based around people's animal companions when it comes to their evacuation procedure?
So that's a great question. We want to make sure that we have a plan that includes all our family members. As much as possible, if you have a free roaming animal in your home, we don't want you to take time to go looking for them. As I mentioned at the top of the show, you have less than 2 minutes to escape in the event of a fire. So you have to get out quickly. Now, to prepare for that, there's a few tips we give. Close doors at night. So if your animal can be closed into a room, that way, usually when we have a fire, the most dangerous aspect of human life is not the flames. Flames spread, but it's the smoke. So if we can close doors, and that's why I say when you evacuate, close doors. But if you close doors while you're sleeping, like we have a saying called close before you doze, it's very important to close doors while you're sleeping, because that would keep the smoke out in case of a fire. So that would include children's rooms. That would include the rooms where you have your pets. So the key thing is, in a family setting, is to make sure that you get out as quickly as possible. Obviously, if you could grab your pet on the way out, you do it. But if you have to take time to look for it, we want people to get out, let us know, and then we can focus on it. When I talk to kids, this is a big point, especially kids. I always say we have the 3 Ps at the fire department: people, pets, and property. If all the people are out quickly and safely, we can focus on the pets and then the property. So it's having that plan. If your animal sleeps in your room with you and you can grab it on the way out, great. If your door is blocked and the animal's in your room with you and you got to use the window and you can throw the animal out the window before you go, then that's great too. But you have to have that as a plan. But again, we want to make sure that people do not take time to look for even their animals. Unfortunately, as we see life safety, there is sort of a hierarchy for us. And the 3 Ps says people are first in our eyes. So we're always going to put people first, then pets, then property. I hope that answers the question.
Oh, absolutely. And I can imagine there's no better photo op than coming out of the fire holding a cute puppy, right? I know you don't do it for the photo ops, but I imagine it looks really good to be able to, once, of course, after all the humans are taken care of, it moves on to that next one.
Yeah, well, we have a colleague that saved a very large turtle in a fire once, and that was pretty interesting.
Well, the hair got out just fine.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
the turtle that was the issue,
Well, we don't know
probably.
if the hair got out because the
Yeah.
hair probably just running around.
Yeah, exactly, right? Awesome. No, I think that's great. Yeah, we can move on to
Okay.
some information on falls.
So we're going to talk about falls. And as I mentioned earlier, 55% of the Calgary Fire Department's responses are critical medical interventions. And oftentimes within that percentage, over 40,000 calls is fall assists. So we do see seniors quite often on calls. And that's why the National Fire Protection Association decided to couple not only fire safety and fall prevention, because those are two of the largest incident types that cause health issues for our seniors. In fact, falls are the leading cause of injuries among seniors. This is an Alberta stat here. 67% of injuries in seniors come as a result of falls. Motor vehicle collisions are only 2%, and then there's others. So in the other category, you might have scalds and burns and any other sorts of injuries, but falls are the number one cause by far and wide margin. So we want to make sure that we do our part by educating you, and hopefully you can learn something from this next session. So the first thing we're going to talk about, and I'll show some images here, is how to get up from a fall. So the first thing you want to do is to roll to your side. Okay, so you want to roll onto your side, taking your time. We don't want you to rush. So if you fall, take some time, gather yourself, gather your breath, gather your thoughts, calm your mind down. Then roll onto your side if you can, and crawl to a chair or a sturdy piece of furniture. From that kneeling position, you want to put your arms onto the seat of the chair, and then bring one knee up, one knee that you're able to weight bear, and then kind of push with your arms and legs and pivot your bottom into the chair, and then sit and rest before trying to move. Okay, so it's a bit of a process, but the first thing we want you to do is when you fall, gather your bearings. You've gone from a high spot to a low spot in a very quick amount of time. From a very young age, we've all thought that if we've fallen, to get right back up, whether it's because we used to play sports or whether it's that fear of embarrassment, even within your own setting. Sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. Take your time and then roll to your side, crawl to a chair, and then from that kneeling position, get up and slowly pivot into the chair as you see in the visuals here. So that's how to get up from a fall. But we want to talk a little bit about preventing falls. And the number one way we can prevent falls is, if my slides are working. Okay, is to exercise regularly. Okay, sorry, I don't know why that happened, but let's see. Okay, so exercise regularly for your health and wellness. So exercise is the number one way we can prevent falls. Exercise builds strength, improves your coordination, improves your balance. When you focus on keeping active and you are able to continue to do the activities you enjoy. So you want to make sure that you consult your medical profession, your doctor, your nurse, into what exercise, what type of activities you can do within your healthy range. So there's all sorts of things you can do around the city of Calgary, all sorts of activities for our seniors out there, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Tai Chi is one of the ideas that has been proven to reduce the risk of fall. Tai Chi is a very slow, balance, and coordination type martial art. It focuses on core engagement, focuses on balance, and really can help you prevent those falls. So that's one of the exercises you can do. Training with friends, even going for a walk with friends can help improve your physical fitness. Train with a professional. Okay. And also, as I said, ask your doctor about the best exercises that fit you. The city of Calgary has many programs. These programs titled Gentle Fitness, I'll put out a website later where you can research them a little bit more. So Gentle Fitness is a type of fitness program that the City of Calgary recreational facilities offer to our seniors. And they have three levels. They have Gentle Fitness 1, Gentle Fitness 2, and 3. The way it was explained to me very simply is if you can go to a mall and have a walk at the mall for 0 to 15 minutes, and then you need to sit down and you need to gather yourself, you're probably at level 1. And so level 1 fitness classes across the city, Gentle Fitness level 1, are slow paced, primarily seated classes. They focus on functional movements, fall prevention, and strengthening exercises. When we move to level 2, think about that mall walk and think about going to the mall and walking around for 15 to 30 minutes of continuous walking before you need to sit down and take a break. Okay. So that would be Gentle Fitness 2. And those courses that are offered around Calgary involve seated and standing components. They're moderately paced exercises, again, focusing on increasing that functional capacity, balance, mobility, muscle strength, and aerobic endurance. Okay. And then level 3 is for our populations that are capable of doing 30 plus minutes of that mall walk. Think about that mall walk and you can walk all morning. And then primarily standing, they're moderately paced. There's no jumping, but they are for people that have a higher function and no limitations to exercise. So those are offered through the City of Calgary Rec. We really want to offer something we just didn't want to tell people to go exercise. We
Yeah.
want to give them some options. So to find out more about drop-in and registered Gentle Fitness programs, you can go to www.calgary.ca/live and play. And a lot of these programs are also offered on the fair entry program. So if you are on the fair entry, you have access to lower rates for these programs, which is really neat because I know from experience, a lot of our seniors have some financial challenges. And so any type of break they can get is great. And I think these classes are fantastic.
Absolutely. And I just want to quickly get a nod from our producer. They Gentle Fitness classes are also offered down here at Kirby Center. So if you want to check out any of the classes that we have available here, just go to www.unisonalberta.com.
So that's great. You have many options out there. The key is to go to your computer, go to your phone, call 311 to find out about these programs because, oftentimes, with my smoke alarm program, I'm telling some people about these programs for the first time. So, and spread the word, even if it doesn't apply to you, maybe it applies to a friend of yours or a colleague. Okay. The next thing we want to talk about when we talk about fall prevention is our footwear. So wear sturdy, well-fitting shoes. Low-heeled shoes with non-slip soles are the best. Okay. They're safer than high-heeled shoes. Thick-soled, very spongy athletic shoes aren't necessarily the best. In fact, a lot of the athletic shoes now, the running shoes, are made with cloth. The shoe is cloth, and oftentimes, depending on our body weight, you could roll your ankles very easily. We want to avoid, wearing thick-soled athletic shoes, as I mentioned, slippers or even stockings on our feet. So being aware that our footwear can affect, our probability of falling. So here's just an example of the type of shoe that we would recommend. Easy to lace up with the Velcro. The toe box is wide enough that allows your toes to move. The heel being wide and flat for better stability. Is a little bit more in depth than I'd like to get about shoes, but we want to make sure that people have proper footwear that doesn't make them susceptible to falling. The next thing, and this is a big thing, is take your time. Take your time. If you have to get out of your chair, if the doorbell rings, the phone rings, if the person at the door knows you and knows your living situation, they know it will take you maybe a little bit longer than someone else to get to the door. So take your time. sit a moment before you get out of bed in the morning or before going to the bathroom. I know sometimes we have to rush to the bathroom, but take a moment to gather yourself. Stand and get your balance before you walk. Sometimes at nighttime, we're not as aware, depending on if we're wearing our glasses or our hearing aids. We might, when one sense is gone, the others are a little bit off. So make sure we take our time and definitely being aware of our surroundings and preparing those surroundings, right? Making sure, and I'll talk about it a little later, eliminating any hazards that you might not notice in the middle of the night. So take your time, collect your bearings. One of the strategies that I saw going to a person's home was they had a sign on the door, and it basically said, "If I'm expecting you, call me to let me know that you're here." And then they give me a code, and they have a code on their door, and then they can go in. They had a severe mobility issue, and so they put one of these digital, keypads on their front door, and they would give the code to the person that was coming to the door. So I thought that was a really neat way to save them maybe a 5-10 minute walk to their door if they had to get back into their chair and all this stuff. So think about strategies that can help you. Not that we don't want you to move, but we want you to take your time and not feel rushed. That's the big thing. What's the strangest thing you've ever tripped on in your home? If you haven't tripped, what have you heard about tripping? Well, I'm going to tell you a story while you think about it, because poor Carla, she was going down the stairs one day, and unfortunately at that time, there was a cat living in the home, and I guess the cat had vomited on the stairs, and poor Carla tripped, slipped on the cat vomit, and she broke her wrist. So that to me was strange. It was very unfortunate for my mom. She was in the cast for quite some time, and she still has a bit of issues, but even the most tiniest thing could be a hazard, and that's what happened to my mom. For me, I trip over everything. I hit my feet on everything.
I trip over everything as well. I am a very clumsy person.
Same here.
And
Same here.
I have a 110-pound border collie
Oh,
named Harley, who absolutely adores putting himself purposefully to become a tripping hazard.
yeah.
So his nickname around the house is Barrier.
Well, that's a great point. And if I go back to fire safety and in the kitchen, that area around the stove, we always say that's a kid-free area. So 1 meter in front of the stove and the oven. It's also a pet-free area because of that exact reason. We don't want people tripping over their pets or their pet toys as they're handling hot items. Also, it's very dangerous for the pet as well, right? So thanks for bringing that point up. We're going to have to keep Harley out of the kitchen.
Do you know, you can try, you can absolutely try. And we've had him for 2 years, and I will let you know when I figure out how to keep him out of the kitchen. But now something for me to work on in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Treats. I heard dogs love treats. So moving on, we want to make sure that you're aware of any uneven surfaces around your home. So throw rugs should all have rubber backings or non-skid backings. I know that some people have some really nice family heirlooms that they lay on the ground, but some of those things can cause huge tripping hazards or slipping hazards. So making sure we try to put some backing, some Dyson strips, some rubber. We want to smooth out any wrinkles or folds in carpets. We don't want to stack carpets. I know that I go into some houses and they put cutouts of the carpet, like the extra carpet on top of the carpet to keep the carpet that's underneath clean, keep it more brand new. So you step on but remember, anything you stack up that it could be unevenly set could cause a tripping hazard for you. So, if you're practicing any of that, you know what, it's time to take out the cover for your carpet and just use your carpet. You bought it to use it.
Live a little.
Live a little. It's yours. You should use it. As Heather's drinking from the juice box, I'm drinking my water here. And Heather, I asked before if they had any water. She offered me a sippy juice box. And I thought, gosh, that might not look very professional on the
Yeah, who would do something like that?
Yeah. I ran to my, but now that I see your juice box, it looks quite on yours.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know who would be unprofessional enough to drink
Well, it's not that it
a
looked
juice,
unprofessional, but
it's very it is a little child, just a little bit childish.
you know what? Someone mentioned today, they said, you don't drink from juice boxes, do you? And I thought, well, I don't know. I think I'd like to once in a while, but then I was like called on it, right? So anyhow, moving on.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want to be aware of any uneven sidewalks or pavement outdoors. Many of our seniors live in the older, more mature neighborhoods with lots of trees. And with those trees comes the roots heaving the sidewalks and the streets. Please be aware you have a path that you take to some of your common places, whether you go to the store, whether you go to church. Be aware of where those cracks can be. Be aware of the surface as you're walking, and especially in front and around your home. If you're not capable, please ask friends to clear ice and snow from walkways. I know that Age Friendly Calgary, if you look online and go to Age Friendly Calgary, it's a City of Calgary business unit. They do offer some support for seniors. There's an application process, but that people can do some simple chores such as snow removal, lawn cutting. But I'm not an expert on their service, but I do know that if you go to Age Friendly Calgary, they have services that can help some of our seniors. So have a look. It could be something that applies to you, and it would definitely be helpful so that you have clear walking ways. And again, you know, you can ask a friend to clear that snow and ice if you can't do it. The next thing we want to do is make sure we keep the areas and walkways clear. So be sure to remove any electrical cords, any shoes, any clothing, books, magazines. You know, stairwells are not as much as they look like you can stack your shoes nice and neatly. We shouldn't have anything, any tripping hazards on stairs. And yeah, maybe cats as well, or cat vomit, right? But that happened in the middle of the night. My mom had no way of knowing, but it might lead to our next point, which is making sure that, well, our next point is, I'm going to go down here, is improve lighting around your home. So, you have lighting in your home, but you know what? As we age, our vision changes, our perception of light changes. Maybe we need more lights. Maybe we can buy some little LED plugins. They sell them at Costco, Walmart, all types of stores that, they're motion activated. So if you're on your path to the bathroom at night, it will light your way. And you can see, always make sure you're using lights when going up and down the stairs. Again, my mom could have learned from that. Actually, it happened to me. My son, I have a basement, and I always turn the lights on in the basement and to go down the stairs. And one day I was going down the stairs and I almost went too quick. And I just said, oh, you know what? I'm going to turn on the lights. And I saw like 3 pairs of shoes on the stairs. I asked my son to bring them down. He just threw them on the stairs. And I was carrying a load of laundry, and I would have wiped out. So it can happen to any of us. So improving the lighting around your home can reduce your risk of falling. I'm going to go back here. So keep walkways and stairs clear. Again, when we go back to our fire escape planning, in an emergency is not the time to be removing things from your door, to removing boxes and trash bags and trash bins. You have to keep those stairways and walkways clear at all times for fire safety, but also for fall prevention. Okay. We want to make sure there's no clutter blocking you or potentially tripping you. When you are going up and down the stairs, put a hand on the handrail. It's best to have them on both rails, but at least use handrail up and down. Okay. And if you have many things to do, as much as possible, do a couple of trips.
I am very guilty of this because I am the person that will try to get every single bag of groceries up the stairs in one trip. And if that is a extremely bad idea. So do as we say, not as we do.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. I do the same thing. So you're preaching to the choir, and I've got a little bit of a hypocrite in me as I say this, because whenever I see that, make more trips with lighter loads, I don't do it. Then I watch my sons do the same thing, and I tell them, so I guess we could all learn from this, right? We can all learn from this. Make sure that we lighten our load so that's easier to get up and down. In our bathrooms, we want to use non-slip mats and grab bars. So if you don't have those installed, it would be great to get some of those things. A seated shower bench or a bench can help and can reduce your risk of falling in the tub or in the shower. So grab bars, handrails, those definitely can help reduce your risk of falling. Review your medications. So make sure you talk to your doctor, your pharmacist. Be aware of any side effects. Make sure we're reviewing how different medications, if you have any new medications that you're taking, make sure you ask the questions how they will react with other medications. You have to be your own advocate, especially for health. So if one doctor gives you something, make sure you understand how it works with everything else you are using. Being aware of any side effects that will cause dizziness and drowsiness. Again, back to cooking, but also for falling. Anything causing blurred vision or double vision, we want to know about those things. So always follow the instructions and the doses. Keep a current list of medications with you at all times. So have that list of medications, put it on your fridge, give a copy to a caregiver or a family member, and add emergency contacts and healthcare provider information on that list. Okay. You can see here, looks very small, but a dosette box helps plan your pills for the week so that you know what you're taking in the AM and the PM. Have that handy so you're not fumbling about trying to find the medications you need. So making sure you have that plan. Okay. And then review those medications. We say that again, take it as directed. Consider a medical alert device. If you live alone or you are alone for long periods of times, medical alerts, oftentimes they have a subscription base. It's wearable, but it's also push button in an emergency. And so those devices are very, very useful for our seniors, especially, you know, as you're planning, if you want to age in place and you want to keep that going, which is something that we encourage people to do. It's something that we'd like to see. Make sure you have the right devices to help you do so. So also we want you to visit your eye specialist once a year. Your prescriptions may change. You want to make sure you check the vision, check a hearing specialist every 2 years, and just to make sure that, you know, you're healthy, you know, and it's basically making sure that you keep on top of your medical needs as you age and make sure that you're up to date with whatever you need. You know, I know that, you know, my dad, as he got older, he was quite stubborn. He didn't want to get a hearing aid, although he needed one. And it's really setting aside, you know, those notions, you know, aging is not so, you know, I'm 47, I'm turning 50. I will be visiting Unison and becoming a client at the Kirby Center shortly. And I look forward to that. And you know, the thing, you know, there are things that come with aging that some people think is a stigma, but they are also things that help you to live out the longer life, to enjoy the benefits. So yeah, you know, I'm not going to be like my dad. When my hearing goes, which I don't know if it's my hearing or my listening that's gone yet, but when my hearing goes, I have no shame about making sure I have the right device so that I can hear. Say, you know, I've been wearing glasses my entire life and I've never had any shame about wearing glasses or contact lenses. And so I think that's got to be the approach. If we want to enjoy what life has to offer, sometimes we need some aids. You know, I look at Carla, my mom, you know, and she's fallen a number of times. And, you know, she didn't want to visit me in Calgary because she was afraid of going through the airport. And just recently, I promised her that, you know, through WestJet, we would get her on a wheelchair all the way to the seat and all the way into my arms. And that's the only way she accepted to fly. But to get her to do that was years and years of coaxing. And so, yeah, you know, you miss out on a lot of things if you're, I guess if the word is stubborn, and I'm talking about from my own personal experiences with family, but I know that's the experience of many people. You know, I'm one call away from hearing my mom fell again because she refused to use a walker or a cane because she associates that with aging. But you know, she's 82 years old, and you know there is no shame in that. She's living longer than many.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And, you know, maybe we'll talk about this more here at the end, but I think a lot of what you're saying here is we're not trying to scare people or frighten them with, you know, what the potential results could be. we don't want people to be risk averse. We want people to be risk aware, right? The
Absolutely.
more knowledge that people can have, and it's very, I can imagine it'll only take maybe 15, 20 minutes to do a lot of these things. But in the long run, the chance of saving someone a lot of heartache, a lot of potential, hospitalization, anything under the sun, that 15, 20 minutes is going to make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's unbelievable how little things can affect you in a large way. I mean, when we talk about fall prevention, we're not suggesting anything earth shattering. In fact, if we review it here, we want you to exercise regularly, grab a friend, go out for a walk, exercise within your capacity. That is not something earth shattering. We've been preaching that since you were kids, and we want to find a way to make you keep moving so you have that balance, coordination, and mobility, because that first fall will will cause fear of falling, and then it's sort of a vicious cycle. You don't want to move because you don't want to fall again, and then you lose your muscle mass, your coordination, your flexibility. So sometimes you have to will yourself to move, to exercise regularly, but it's not an earth-shattering change. Wearing sturdy and well-fitting shoes is not a big change, but it can be a big deal. It's the difference between, I'm going to walk around in my slippers, or I'm going to get a pair of good shoes for the house. Taking our time, that's an easy one, right? But sometimes we forget, we are in a rush, oh, I got to get the phone. But if the people that know you, when I call my mom, for instance, I call my mom almost every day from the car when I drive to work. I sometimes call 3 times in a row because I know she doesn't own a cell phone. She has a landline, and her landline is usually upstairs on the base. And my mom has knee issues. And if she's downstairs and the phone rings and she hears it, but she's walking towards it, the voicemail is going to pick up. So I usually call 3 times before I figure she might not be there. But I know that about my mom, right? And the people that know you will know that about you. And if they call you once and they don't call back, chances are you don't need to speak to them.
Well, you know what? And I don't think anyone who is coming to your door or giving you a ring would ever want you to take an undue risk just to get in. I can imagine all of our loved ones and our friends, we want them to be as safe as they possibly can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Another thing you can do is make sure you let your loved ones know. If you have family members coming to your house, call you before they go there, so they know that when they ring the doorbell, it'll take you a few minutes. Just little strategies. And there's so many creative ways you can ensure that you're allowed to take your time without feeling like you're in a rush. Then being aware of uneven surfaces around your home or your unit. That's a simple, just going for a walk and knowing and being aware of what's around. Um, Keep walking areas clear. So we talk about those rugs, we talk about smoothing out surfaces and mats, making sure that it's a safe place to walk, and sort of carry about your business. Improving lighting is a simple one, like the price of these LED lights has gone down significantly. You could buy a 3-pack and you plug them in and they light in different colors and stuff, and they're really useful.
Yeah, it's a bright idea.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm sorry. I had to get one in. I had to get
that was
one in.
very clever. That was very clever. I love that. I love that. Using non-slip bath mats and grab bars. In many of the senior centers that I go to, they're automatically built in, but we can make those changes at home to ensure that we don't have any danger when we're bathing or when we're in our bathrooms. And then again, making sure we review medications, prescriptions, making sure we see our eye specialists and our hearing specialists regularly, and then making any adjustments that may be needed. If your hearing goes down, get your hearing aids. If your eye prescription changes, get some proper glasses so that you can see. And that's about it. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here, Unison Kirby Center. I hope that this message goes far and wide to not just your clients, but their friends. Spread the word. Again, Fire Prevention Week is coming up on October 8th to the 14th. On October 8th, which is Thanksgiving Sunday, from 1 to 4 p.m., we are hosting 4 open houses. So you can visit 4 firehouse throughout the city. We have one in Mackenzie Town, one in Temple, one in Forest Heights, and one in Single Hill. So any one of those fire halls, we're hosting an open house from 1 to 4 p.m. You could come in, take a look at the truck, ask any questions. We have some prizes to give away. And so entry is just as simple as filling out a ballot, throwing it in a boot. So we'd love to see you at one of our open houses, and all that Fire Prevention Week activities and information is listed on Calgary Fire. So calgary.ca/fire. And I think it's /Fire Prevention Week. So there's some activities, but the messages we learned today, we'd like you to apply 365 days a year so that you can age wherever you age, and you can live a long and healthy life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that we talk about here is that we just want people to live well and live well where they are and in their communities. And it doesn't take much, like you're saying, to do some of these things. 15, 20 minutes out of your year can save you a lot of heartbreak down the line, right? And so I just want to thank you so much for coming by and giving all this information. I'd like to thank Carla for being an excellent, not so much example for things, but hey, do you know what? I think we've all slipped on cat vomit once in our lives, and we just appreciate Carla being honest with it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
she's great. No, I know. I brought her to one of my presentations live this summer when she visited, and she wound up being the star of the show, and it was very engaging for her. So
that's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Carla, and thank you, Randy, for coming by, and it was just a pleasure to have you.
thanks so much for having me, and yeah, keep safe.
Absolutely.